Hello, everyone, and welcome to my session 7, actually session 8 teaching memo. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know I did. I had my kids over last Sunday. I think I mentioned that, and went to my wife's family up in Schenectady on Thursday. So had a very good time, and I hope all you risk takers survived the Black Friday. It's not something Dr. and Laura and I do. We were in most of the weekend decorating for Christmas. Today is Cyber Monday. I must check my email. Actually, I have already checked my email to see if there are some deals out there for me, and there aren't. I am definitely an armchair shopper, but unless somebody lightning strikes me and says, buy this, it ain't happening today for me. And condolences to all you Jets fans out there. Even a weakened, not at full speed Tom Brady seems to be good enough to win. All right, little housekeeping. I'm leaving the lesson plan feedback open for another week because I have not had a chance to give feedback to everyone yet because of the holidays and a lot of other things going on. I was only able to get to some of them. So even though the revised lesson discussion board is open, I wouldn't make any changes until you see my comments. So this last discussion board is open until the 14th, I believe, of December. So it's open for I'm not sure. Let me just check. When that discussion board is open, I'll go into assignments, and might be it closes the 11th, but that's a discussion board that I'm going to leave open because it technically can be open until your assignment is due, and the assignment isn't due until the 18th, I believe. Let me just go in and check to make sure that it's due on the 18th. I believe it is. Yeah, upload draft lesson plan. So I am going to leave that discussion board open till the 18th so you can give each other feedback right up until the last minute. And then you have a week to upload it to get graded by me. I am making comments right on the discussion. So if you look, you can look at other people's discussion or other people's lesson plans, and you can see the comments that I've made. I'll look. I mean, you can see them all. So it's not like I'm telling tales out of school here. Rose, you can see that Rose attached here. What I've been doing is I've been downloading it and then pasting it in the text box. And I'll use Kristen's here. You can see that I've written in red. Some I've written in blue. I started writing in red, but then I noticed that there's other things written in red here. You can see I started writing in blue. So I've made comments right on the on your lesson plan. So look for those. Look for other people's. That's group 3. Looks like I did group 3, and I haven't done group 1 and 2 or 4 yet. So I'll be working on those, and I should have those done by Wednesday at the latest. I'm going to be working on them all Tuesday and Wednesday, so I should have everything done by then. So I'll talk about session 7. I've made comments on your plans. Here are some of the big ideas that I thought were missing in many of the plans that I've seen so far. 1, your pre-assessment was missing. You need to describe how you're going to determine who may already have mastered your learning targets, how you're going to group students. You also need to mention how you will or did determine cultural or community assets. And that's part of the rubric that you will get downgraded on if you do not mention that in your learning plan. Now, many of you filled out the commentary sheet below. That's okay. I think in the future that's going to be part of the lesson plan process anyway. So those of you who did it, I can check that for your assessments. I can check that for language demands. I can check that for research, which are things I'm going to mention right now. Your language demand, look at the rubric and see what is expected in that area. They're looking for discourse. How are you talking? How are students talking about the assignment, what they're learning? How is vocabulary being taught? Syntax, the use of symbols, etc., etc. So look at the rubric and see what they're expecting for the language demand. Language function is the verb that you use in your learning targets. Now, many of you have either left it out or are not using the verb, or are using a verb that is like understand. If you're using a verb like understand, will become familiar with, you are going to get downgraded on the EdTPA and my grading right away for your learning targets. So your learning targets, there are action verbs which I have put into course materials. I think in session 6 and 7, or maybe 7 and 8, I'm not sure. But use those action verbs: identify, define, list, describe, compare and contrast, analyze. Those are all action verbs that make your learning target specific and measurable. The central focus, some of you struggle with that. The central focus is a big idea. Students will learn to students will add and subtract multi-digit numbers with and without regrouping. That's a big idea. That's a big idea you're going to revisit all year. It's may not be something you're covering specifically in your lesson, but it is a big idea that encompasses what you're covering in your lesson. So remember that a central focus is like an enduring understanding, which is one of our vocabulary words. Some of you have used what we call essential questions, which is also okay, because essential questions are typically open-ended questions. So remember that they're open-ended, that you will be revisiting during the year and maybe during the whole elementary school years. So it's not just something you're covering in that lesson, your central focus. You really should be using a learning target activity, and in additional resources, lesson plans, videos, you'll see a video which I've mentioned to many of you called SWABOT, and it's how the teacher shares her learning targets with her students. You need to let students know where we're going, so they know where they're going, so they can make some mid-course corrections. They can, based on formative assessments, they can say, okay, I'm halfway there, I need to get going. And then revisiting them at the end of the lesson to see how did we do. Formative assessment helps answer the questions: where am I going, which is your learning target; where am I now, that's formative assessment; and how can I close the gap. And those are three important questions that you need to work on in your lesson. Formative assessments: what are you doing in the middle of your class to let kids know and to let you know how they're doing, so you can make some mid-course corrections, so they can change what they're doing. So formative assessment is powerful. It needs to be in your lesson plan. EdTPA graders are going to be looking for it. I am going to be looking for it. And the last thing I noticed that was missing from almost all of the plans was research. You need to use a citation, and the more specific the better. Like I use a couple examples here: cooperative learning, Spencer Kagan or Johnson & Johnson are three familiar names that are associated with the research on cooperative learning. Black and Willem did a meta-analysis on formative assessment back in the late 90s, I believe, 98, somewhere around there. So whatever strategies you're using, you need to support them with research, research-based strategies. So those are a few of the items that you all can use to improve your lesson plans. right now, today. All right, session 8. This will be the last math session. You will continue revising your plans based on my and your classmates' feedback. I should be finished with your plans, as I mentioned, by Wednesday at the latest. In this session, there is another discussion board with different groups to which you will post your revised lesson plan. And as I mentioned, I'm going to keep that open right through the end to when your lesson plan is due, which is on December 18th. So you have a lot of time to revise your lesson plan. So if you're panicking and saying, I'm not getting feedback, don't worry about that. I'm going to be giving you feedback this week. And then your classmates in the next couple of weeks will be giving your feedback in your new discussion group. Remember, there are new groups there, and I will I will just show you that I've changed the groups. I'll go into all discussions here. This is the discussion board in algebraic thinking. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. This is your initial draft, which you'll still have, and I believe your revised lesson plan is here. I'll move that up just so it's towards the top up here. Again, your revised lesson plan rubric or revised lesson plan discussion board will be graded with that two-part rubric, with the modified discussion board rubric. So it's just based on timeliness, and it's based on how often you respond. Now, because I am not ready with feedback, I am not going to count this until next week, making your first post. So keep that in mind. So don't email me and say, Dr. Tom, you haven't given me feedback, and I'm getting points deducted because I'm not posting in the first couple days. No, I will not start. This will not start till December 4th. So relax and don't worry about the timeliness aspect of it till next week. As I said, wait till you get feedback from me, and before you post your revised lesson plan. We're also going to have one more final discussion board on algebraic thinking. Remember, this one has the most weight. I've gradually increased the weights of all the discussions as we've gotten towards the end. So by now you know exactly what's expected, and you should do your best on this discussion board. There are 5 resources in course materials. There's Hatfield's chapter 14, which is on algebraic thinking. This is a one-page article from 2004 from National Council for Teachers of Mathematics. This is Kathy Seeley, who was the president at that time. These are 2 articles from a 1997 Children and Teaching Children Mathematics, which are still viable today. I picked them because one is pre-primary, and this one is in the early grades, algebraic thinking. So both pertinent to this course. And this last one is from EdTech Leaders, online, the 3 components of algebraic thinking. So I don't want you to go through each resource and say, this resource said this resource said this resource said this. I want you to respond to the prompts, the discussion board prompts, and use those resources. This is the writing prompt here. Use the resources to support your comments answering this writing prompt. So please don't go through and summarize each one of those articles. That's not what the discussion board is about. It's to show me that you can apply what you're reading, what you're learning, by using those comments to support your opinions and your connections. So I'm looking forward to this last discussion board, getting involved with it. As you all know, this is a new course. These are new discussions that I've created, and I'm really excited about seeing how they go. Okay, I think that's it for I wanted to mention a couple of things with vocabulary in your own words. I have it here. There's a couple, as I said last week, there's a couple of things here we will not see in our readings. One of them is attribution theory. Now, attribution theory, and I have a website that I've linked to in my teaching memo. It's this education.com website, and it's the way students attribute their success or lack of it in the classroom, whether it's to luck, whether I worked hard, whether I'm stupid, I'm lazy, and it's pretty much similar and kind of segues into Carol Dweck's mindset theory, fixed mindset and growth mindset. So attribution theory is what students attribute their lack of, or their success or lack of, in the classroom. And most of you have heard of mindset. Many of you have talked about it already in this course. Carol Dweck's research in her book called Mindsets. This is a website called Mindset. Not what I'm thinking is that it's about the author. Carol Dweck. This is her website. So if you're looking for information on mindsets, this is where to go. And I've also linked this into the teaching memo. So a fixed mindset is people that believe that their basic qualities like intelligence, talent, are fixed. That was the old mentality, the old paradigm that most of us were brought up with, is that, hey, you were born smart or you were born not so smart, and that's the way it's going to be the rest of your life. So live with it, pal. And we have found that that's not true, that the brain continues to grow and make connections. It pairs the connections that we don't use, and it builds new connections as we are using our brains. So we can get smarter, we can grow smarter, and that's what a growth mindset is, and that we all should have that mindset, that we can all that basic abilities can be developed through dedication, hard work, practice. Brains and talent are just a starting point, and we can get smarter, we can grow our brains. So due to the plasticity of our brains, and we know that now, and research supports that. So those are three definitions that I haven't talked about and that are in your vocabulary in your own words. You can see growth mindset and fixed mindset is here. I just mentioned essential questions, which are open-ended questions regarding the big ideas of a lesson. So those are some vocabulary in your own words. Remember, this is due on the last day. You should have been filling it out throughout the course. The other thing that you need to should have been filling out, and if you haven't, you can go back and do that. And that's also due on the last week. If you go into the last week, I've got everything filled out now through the end. This is the baseline survey that we took in the beginning, and these questions are just a little different, but they're basically the same 4 questions that you answered in the beginning, and you'll answer now at the end. And again, you could have been filling these out, or should have been filling these out as the course was progressing. So that's it for this week. I will be back next Monday. Only 2 sessions to go after this one, and next week is going to be science, and the week 11 is going to be on assessment.